Hello and welcome to Jerry's Rauta Rants. Today's topic is John Finberg, which was very much all over social media, at least when it comes to metal media, metal people, promoters, touring bands, and all those linked together. And why so? Because of these sexual harassment allegations which were there present because of John Finberg being a kind of douchebag for what he is. Now, everybody probably knows the deal by now, but I'll just recap in case you have been under a blackout or something. Thing is, this John Finberg fella seems to be very good at making tours for the band, promoting them, spinning their careers, and all that stuff. So, he's making bands money, making bands careers happen, and all that stuff. So why he could be a bad guy? Well, obviously for the reason that he's a sexual harassment panda. Now, obviously the legal case with the Finberg man is very much yet to happen. Nobody knows yet for sure how many crimes he may or may have not committed. But it's pretty much clear that he has been harassing bands, girls, audience, different kind of people altogether. I'm not gonna list because I have absolutely zero idea how many people in the world he has been harassing or may have possibly harassed. Pretty much what I could gather from the consensus of the social media exposure, news and whatever, is that he has indeed done a lot of bad things. There is no denying. But how many things he has actually been guilty of? I mean, in the legal terms, that is yet very much something that we need to just wait and find out. Well, this is not so much about the legal things. I don't want to actually get my hands dirty more than that about the stuff here because, I mean, when it comes to legal stuff, it's better to leave that stuff to people who are actually well versed, who are legal professions and whatever. I mean, we all know that the basic human being have a sense of justice, which may be very different from the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. Some people are ready to just hang everybody by the lamppost because, well, somebody showed boobs or touched genitals. The next guy would be like, yeah, let's wait for the court of justice to do their job and see what happens. The next guy after that is going to shoot the guy himself. I was about to say anyway, and so forth. Everybody knows that there are different ways of see what is just and what is not. Somebody's going to just give him a pass because, hey, that's just what man's going to do, mans are always like that. Let the boys will be boys and all that stuff. We know the stories right here. Now, I'm not so much gonna take my take on this because, like I said, I'm a firm believer in justice system. I know corruption exists in many parts of the world, but most of the time, I think civilized worlds, civilized countries have their just systems which operate there within the law and all that stuff. So personally, I feel sorry for those ladies and other people who were harassed. I mean, that shouldn't happen. But, as it's often the case, things are not that simple. And now I know I'm walking in a very thin layer of ice. Now, the reason is this. I'm gonna just shout it out so you can just shoot me later. Because obviously that is your sense of justice, right? Now, there are three things that spin the world. Prove me right. Change my mind. One of them is money. Money gets you a lot of things. When you have money, you have certain kind of privileges that you probably shouldn't have. Not in the legal terms, not in the moral terms and all that stuff. But let's face it, that's how the money spins the world. When you have enough money, you can actually buy people. You can make them turn a blind eye and you just get away with things because you have money. You can basically touch somebody in the wrong places and buy them enough of money. You can actually buy sex and all that stuff. You can bribe people. So money gets you a long way. And that's why some super filthy rich people can get away with things because, well, they have money. Now, the second thing that spins the world very much, even more so than money, is power. Some people cannot be bribed, but I think that most people can actually be both if the price is high enough. Not maybe necessarily with the actual money like golds and diamonds and, currency, cash, but basically we all have price tags. Sometimes power can be, exchanged for some other power. So I think basically all the people can be both in different ways. And this kind of power can be of political nature, it can be legal nature, it can be power that you can have armies to command, military power, and all that stuff. So there are many ways of control people with different power. Maybe it's religious power, maybe it's because you have lots of fans, maybe you're an influencer of sorts who can do crazy shit and then people will follow. Maybe you can just say, hey, these kind of epidemics don't even exist because I haven't gotten one, so it's not there. And people are like, yay, he's alright. Like I know a person, through a close person, that is, sipping some bleaching thingies because a certain president was vouching that it would save her or him from epidemic. Now, that is the point here that influence or power is very, very strong currency. And sometimes you can just sell your power in order to get cash. Sometimes you can just, buy power when you have enough cash. So they are very interchangeable. And the third one, you guessed it right, it comes with the biology. It's called sex or sexual services. So sometimes when you don't have money and you don't have the power, maybe you have a hoochie coochie, which you can then again trade for power. Maybe someone is willing to do you a big favor because you give these certain kind of benefits. Sometimes you use money to get that sex because otherwise you wouldn't get. Maybe your face looks like mine, or maybe you're just out of luck for various reasons. Maybe you're all paralyzed and nobody comes close to you. But, well, let's not get to that. The point here is you have 3 different ways, major ways of getting things done. Money, power, and sex. Some say sex is a certain way of power, but I wanted to make it a different thing here. Now, why I wanted to mention is that it's very, very much related to this Finberg stuff. So obviously he used his power as a leverage to get sex. That is, he promised some bands more success, technically using his power to get sex from the ladies, maybe the audience, fans, whatever, by the bands. So if, for example, if a band had a certain kind of a group of people, like in groupies, maybe the guy in question would be like trading, hey, I'm gonna get you some tour if you will lend me one of your groupies for a few hours and we'll get it done. Everybody wins, right? Not exactly. Things get very complicated. First of all, there are people who are ready to do that. That's why groupies exist. Why would a fan be ready to blow some drummer of a rock or metal band if she or he wasn't enjoying that stuff? Maybe she got a favor, or maybe she wanted to do that so he or she could tell her or his friends about these things happening. Now, like I said, I know I'm walking very much on thin ice, or maybe I am already among the ice because I'm telling you this stuff. So I'm not defending Finberg at all. Actually, I'm very much accusing him. But then again, I know why these things happen. Because, like I said, people want to trade things. Now, the big question obviously is, the reason why I'm making this video is, why did the bands let all this happen? Why they were turning a blind eye for these things happening? People being abused, people being harassed. Obviously, for power, they wanted their share of success. And if the Finberg guy was threatening like, I'm gonna destroy your career if you don't get what I want, well, you will be crushed. Why they bought this story like they will be crushed? You really can't destroy an art, right? well, technically you can destroy a piece of art, like take an album here, bend it, and, destroy it. But can you actually destroy the music? Because it's spread on multiple copies. Can you destroy the artist's mind just because you destroy their career? I kind of doubt it. So first of all, if there is a band, mid-level success, from 1 to 10, say they have a 4, and this promoter guy says, you're going to get to level 5, maybe even 6 if you just, help me out these things. The price is so high. Once again, we're talking about trade here, but essentially in a form of promise. So this guy is saying, hey, I'm going to boost your level up if you just help me with this one thing I really can't do with money or won't do with money because I have the power, which is my currency. I mean, it's not like he's Bill Gates or Zuckerberg or Facebook. So basically, he's ready to trade some part of his power in a form of influence or favor for the bands that then again would trade or sacrifice rather this lamb to this monster of a man. And that's how things go. Now, people will keep their mouths shut because, first of all, they're too afraid they can be actually destroyed, or their tours will get cancelled, or that it will never happen. But this fear is also a form of power. It's also a form of influence that if you let that feeling, that emotion take power all over you, well, you are not very strong and you are not very capable of doing these things. Now, some bands obviously did the right thing and tell him to bug off when they found about these sexual harassment things, when they found about that this guy is actually abusing his power and, making these threats or basically acting like no human should do. Now, the real thing here is, are there other villains than just this Finberg guy? And to be honest, this is not so simple question that you could actually go with a simple answer. One could say, yeah, the bands were clueless, but they were not. I mean, some bands might have been for a while, and then they suddenly were not. Also, some of the victims, or alleged victims anyway, I mean, they must have had clue or not these kind of things would have happened. Why did these people start to talk about now when things were exposed? Why didn't they talk about years ago? Or were they not just believed in what they were telling? I don't know. There's so many ways that all these things could have been covered up, What really bothers me is that it all came out from one single article. And while it had been truthful, I really hate that this certain website, which I'm not going to even mention because I really don't like it, because they have been doing harm to lots of other bands with always not so good reasoning. And while they might have now done a big favor to the metal scene, bands, fans, groupies, whatever, with this story, it kind of also shows that one certain story is enough to start creating the snowball effect. And if they start, abusing this system, like, hey, we have this power, we can make things happen, there is a real threat of corruption even within, especially when the media I'm talking about doesn't even use their own name and own personalities, faces and all that stuff to make these stories. So my point here is, while Finberg is no doubt certain of a villain, certain of a monster and all that, and pretty much guilty of so many charges what he's going to be getting for the things he did and all that stuff, I don't think it's that simple. Like, we have this villain, let's get him into a prison or jail or whatever, and suddenly, boom, the world is a better place. What we actually have here is kind of a twisted power play. And whenever I'm touching such kind of a subject, I feel like I'm taking a part of that play, whether or not I should be and whether or not I kind of want to be. I want to talk about this topic because I think people should be aware of these things and people should be aware of these kind of a power play things. So even like we want to see like, hey, music is just artists and fans and that's it. We all know there is money involved. We all know that with money comes power. With fandom comes more power. And this all becomes this twisted field where artistry is just one small part of a puzzle. And being an innocent fan is also one single innocent piece of the puzzle. But when you have all these multiple puzzles, it all becomes kind of a clouded. It all becomes like a really weird puzzle. Suddenly you don't have 4-piece puzzle. You have a puzzle made of millions of, pieces. Some of them are being bigger and making a bigger part of the whole imagery here. But things are really, really complicated. And now that we have found one Finberg guy, who knows how many other promoters they're doing exactly the same thing. Maybe more subtle ways and maybe not so obvious ways. Maybe other bands are now sweating like, shit, is our promoter the same kind of guy? Is he doing these things because, he wants the same kind of services? And we all know stories about managers, promoters, agents, and whoever who are, hiding some cash from the bands. So some do it for the power, some do it for the sex, and some do it for money. But people are like that. People get corrupted. Basically all you need to understand is the Lord of the Rings story, the big book of fantasy literature. You have this ring, it's gonna corrupt you all, and then things go south. And like I said, I don't think anybody is kind of immune to this. We all have price tags. We all have certain limit, and when that limit is like passed, when you have enough power or money or other influence, you can just spin heads. You can turn heads and make people say whatever. Will I say certain things if suddenly a new Tesla appears in my front yard? Most likely. I'm just happy to know that it won't happen. Happy and happy. I mean, I wouldn't mind a new Tesla or Porsche as long as it's e-drive. Anyway, the point here is I know those things won't happen, and I know this level of corruptness is not that, it's not really happening. But when you go behind closed doors, when you go behind those doors where no fans, no media, basically nobody but maybe the bands and few other key people are seeing, well, dirty things happen. And we all know it with certain kind of band and artist biographies. We all know how many dirty stories and secrets there are. And there's so many secrets that nobody is ever going to tell us. So these secrets die when the actual people die. It's like a serial killers who never get caught. Zodiac, But those who get caught are always a good examples what kind of shit is happening. So obviously I hope that more transparency will come with the territory. But even so, it doesn't mean that problems go away. So the question remains, why didn't the bands act when they knew? Money, power, fear, despair. Who knows? What are your thoughts about this Finberg state thing and event, and about this Metal Me Too, and about these bands that didn't act? Should they have done something different? Should they have acted earlier? Or what should have they done? Are you one of the victims, or do you know a story that should be exposed? Let me know and we'll discuss. Thank you for watching this video. Take care and be safe.